Alright, so look, the reason it turns out the number one contender and former Universal Champion Seth Rollins got the rub from D-Generation X on this week's Raw is because Ricochet was meant to be in that spot, but Ricochet has some kind of elbow injury. That meant original plans had to change, that sucks, but the point still stands. Like the idiot that I am, I believe that WWE was going to use the Raw reunion to actually, shine a spotlight on their current stars and use their older stars in order to do that. For example, some legend from the past could get beaten up by a future legend of today, and we could have all looked at the future legend and gone, oh wow, he or she could be the next big thing, not Brock Lesnar. It would establish our 2019 stars, and we could move forward. As we know, that didn't happen, so we've got to put on our negative Nancy pants and just say that WWE got that Raw reunion completely wrong. Why? Here's why. I know I'm basically wearing a sheet, but it is damn hot here in the UK and I will collapse otherwise. Let's start by putting on our Positive Pete shirts, which apparently don't have a lot of material, and talk about the hero that is Mick Foley, someone who completely understands pro wrestling and is always happy to check their ego at the door. He came back to Raw within the last 24 hours or whenever you're watching this, and he said, Bray Wyatt, I think you are going to be a main player in the future. Let me help you get there. Let me put you over like that damn Rover. He made Wyatt feel even bigger and even more terrifying than he would have done anyway by standing in the middle of the ring and allowing The Fiend to absolutely kick his ass. It's footage WWE can now use constantly to remind you why you need to be scared of Bray Wyatt, and if it does help him go on to bigger things, then this has helped no end. And of course it is going to help no end, because that's the whole point. That's how pro wrestling works. Mick Foley has just taken his 20 years of legacy building and being the hardcore guy and given all of that to Bray Wyatt because he couldn't do anything to stop him. It's why all the time in pro wrestling you hear the phrase passing the torch. He should pass the torch, and that's because lots of people should pass the torch when you do. Your aura and your majesty, it transfers to somebody else, and within the space of 10 minutes, if we're looking at the Bray Wyatt segment, you look at them through a brand new pair of eyes because you can tell the company is saying to you, this is somebody we're invested in. It's also why Wyatt should have beaten The Undertaker at WrestleMania 31, but that is a different argument for a different time, or if you want the Cliff Notes version, just take everything I'm saying and apply it to WrestleMania 31. There's also now this idea that Bray may start using the mandible claw as one of his finishes. If that is true, that's really cool, and what a way to debut it than by putting it on the person that made it famous to begin with. I didn't even pick up on that at first. I just assumed, oh well, maybe Mick Foley can't take a Sister Abigail because he's not cleared, but either way, it worked, and we established Bray Wyatt as somebody that is going to go on to big things, or at least we put him in a position to where that is now possible. That's why I bow and I say thank you very much, Mick Foley. You have spent your whole career doing this, and I, as a fan, massively appreciate it that you're still doing it in 2019. This is WWE at its absolute best. Unfortunately, that was not the case across the board. We mentioned everything with D-Generation X, so let's go there. We've established what was happening behind the scenes, but we also have to talk about what we saw on our television sets, because not everybody is going to go out there and read insider news websites. And so we saw the OC, AJ Styles, Gallows and Anderson, the brand new threatening group in WWE, running away from DX because they were a bunch of fraidy cats. And I know they're heels, they can be cowards, but let's call a spade a spade. It was still a bunch of in their prime guys running away from people that aren't even going to be on Raw next week. Couldn't we at least have done something where they got cheap shotted by AJ Styles and then the three of them got out of Dodge after that? We didn't do that at all. In fact, the OC got no offense in whatsoever, and then Seth Rollins of all people was telling them to sack it. Right, punched in the face and now being told they have to perform oral sex. I don't think that did anything for their bad guy personas. This was the same when Rey Mysterio defeated Sami Zayn, because the focus was clearly on Rob Van Dam, Sergeant Slaughter and Kurt Angle. No one came out the other end with any real zing, and really Rey Mysterio could have been fitted into this Legends category. And if that is the case and we we have all of this, why didn't we give Sami Zayn a win and finally establish, hey, Sami Zayn isn't the proverbial loser, even though he has lost ever since he came back to television after WrestleMania 35. He was just able to technically smash 4 legends right in the face. But we're not allowed to do that. Ray just won in around about 8 seconds. And don't be mistaken, nostalgia is great and you could take away a lot from this show and it was entertaining. But sometimes you do have to put your critical hat on and start looking to the future. Now, the only reason I can think you would do a Raw reunion is because you know that lapsed fans are going to tune in. And that's great. It means you're going to get a ratings bump and you can wave your flag for 7 days going, oh, we did over 3 million viewers or whatever it will do. But if you do get Billy, and Billy is my lapsed fan in this scenario, if you get Billy to come back in because he will follow Stone Cold Steve Austin everywhere, why don't you try and show Billy that you also have these new guys he may be interested in? We can argue who fits the bill, but if there is an edict on this night that every single legend has to do something to get a new guy over, then maybe Billy finds a new wrestler to invest in. He likes this new wrestler so much, he tunes into Raw next week. Then he realizes, oh, SummerSlam is only a few weeks away. I love SummerSlam. I'll hang around for that. Then before you know it, Billy ain't a lapsed fan no more. He's just a fan and he's riding the WWE wave to WrestleMania Town. Finally, you've recouped Billy, you've got him back on board, and you can tick that off your box. You get that big list like Santa Claus, you find Billy, 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 Billy. There's Billy, kapow! Onwards we go. I could be wrong, but I don't think the same thing is going to happen just because the Road Dogg cut a half-decent promo on 3 dudes that Billy has never seen before in his life. In fact, it just made the OC look like a bunch of geeks. And again, I get it. I know why the Raw reunion exists. It's to get a good ratings grab, but why not do that and plan for 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. I really don't get it. I can't understand. I can't fathom why this wouldn't have been put into place. What I do get is that 24 hours removed from Raw, the biggest thing, maybe the only thing that a lot of people are talking about is Bray Wyatt beating up Mick Foley, because there was something in that and there was something different. Also, because we did have so many legends on this show, we just pushed a bunch of other individuals out the picture. Where was Bobby Roode, who last week was teasing that he had a new relationship with the Revival? Bobby Lashley was gone. Baron Corbin, Lacey Evans. In terms of this episode of Raw, they may as well have been dead. All pushed to the sidelines just so the boogeyman could scare Drake Maverick with a briefcase full of worms. And I'm looking for the answer. I'm searching, I'm wading through. I ain't got none. And I get it, this is very, well, woe is me, but sometimes you need to look at things from afar and realize that it's a missed opportunity, and that is something that WWE simply can't afford to do right now. I imagine the rating will be the biggest one of the year, but outside of that, there was no benefit other than to remind you that Stone Cold Steve Austin is absolutely brilliant, and maybe we're never gonna get anyone like him in wrestling ever again. That's quite a sobering, ironically, that's quite a sobering thought and quite a sad one. I'd like another Stone Cold Steve Austin or another The Rock. How the hell did WWE have Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock in the late 90s? No wonder the Attitude Era was so good. That barely comes along once, and they had it twice. Before you say it too, if I am wrong, then hell yeah. I would love nothing more than to be the wrongest person on the planet, and the Raw ratings next week go up, and after that they're greatest still. And SummerSlam is secretly the biggest pay-per-view of the year, even though that makes no sense, and by the end of 2019, WWE are back on track. I'm a wrestling fan. I want to see wrestling companies grow, and I want to see wrestling companies do really well, because not only is that good for me as somebody watching, but it's also good for the wrestlers under that roof. It usually means that the creative envelope is also being pushed forward. Like I say, when I look at the Raw reunion, I just don't think we got it, and I think that we're allowed to be just a little bit surprised. So if you have any answers, or you disagree with me, or you'd just like to fill me in on your day, use the comments below and maybe we can get to an answer. I do just want to say though, I'm not saying it's the worst episode of Raw I've ever seen, and I'm all about nostalgia. You go through any of my videos and you can see that I'm a big fan of it, but WWE is in a different place these days, and it's in a place where they need to capitalize on every single little thing. And we did that with Bray Wyatt, and we did that with Mick Foley, but that DX segment especially felt like an absolute mess. Also, we've seen DX reunite too many times now. I say it every single video, I'm saying it too much now. I'm running this into the ground, but the law of diminishing returns is running wild. The first time you see DX reunite, you're excited. The second time, not so much. The third time, not so much. The fourth time, this must be like the 62,000th time. And we've now got into this weird world where apparently Kevin Nash and Scott Hall wearing NWO paraphernalia are also part of D-Generation X. That was never the case. So now we have the storyline world and the real world coming together, and no one is actually explaining why. And I would go out there and say once again, if you do get to that point, maybe you've reunited something too many times. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you think about all of this. Like, share, and subscribe. Head on to WhatCulture.com. There's a lot of articles about it. Follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE. You can be kept up to date about all of this and watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon for WhatCulture. Thank you very much for watching. If you would like more opinions about how I felt at the Raw reunion, you can watch Ups and Downs. That is live now. But again, enjoyed it at the time. Thought a lot of it was weird. But ultimately now, as I stand here, I'm disappointed because I wanted more Bray Wyatt moments. I think you've been able to pick up on that. I mentioned it 42,000 times. But it was special. It was great. And I totally think it's something we're going to be talking about for a long time. Also, just to let you in on what was going to happen and more plans that were going to change, if Rikishi had been cleared to wrestle, and he wasn't, so I hope he's okay, I hope he's in good health, he was going to stink face the Revival. Some people at the start of the day were saying maybe the Revival get their revenge on D-Generation X given everything that happened at the 25th anniversary of Raw, but instead, Vince McMahon and his team of writers said, no, we can take Dash and Dawson and we can take Rikishi's ass and he can stick it into their faces. Exactly.